click OK. And there's my sunburst. It looks very good to me.
Hi, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to teach you guys a very cool way to make sunbursts in Photoshop. And the reason they're very important, I have not used them in my thumbnails yet, but definitely I'm going to use them in the future. And the reason they're so important is because they can be very eye-catching when you do your thumbnails for YouTube. And they can attract a lot more views than if you wouldn't have used them. And if you don't believe me, you can look at popular channels. A lot of people are using them, and also they're using certain colors which are very eye-catching, which I'm going to discuss in another video about. But let's go ahead and start and see how it's done. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open up Photoshop. My one is already open, and then we're going to create a new file. And then you want to create a file that is the same size as your frame in your video. So for example, my one is 4K, so I'm just going to choose a custom resolution here, and I'm just going to choose 3840 by 2160 and then create a new blank file.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to the foreground color. And I'm going to choose a green, and click OK. And for the background color, I'm going to choose a yellow. I'll click OK. And then we go to gradient tool. One thing to bear in mind, gradient tool, when you use it, the longer you pull your gradient, the smaller the transition between the colors will be. So I'll give you an example. If I pull this line, which is it's going to be a smooth because it's quite long, as you can see, the transition between green to the yellow, it's very subtle, it's very smooth. So that's not something I want. I want a more defined separation, and I'm gonna undo that. So I want it to be somewhere in the center and just pull a small line. Okay, and that looks alright to me. And the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to filter and distort, and I'll go to wave. And in the wave settings, you want to have your amplitude all the way up, and you need to make sure both cursors are all the way up and they're matching. They're not misaligned, they need to be aligned. And the scale is all the way up. Number of generators, I'm gonna use 45. And the wavelength, this is something you want to play with, and again, they need to be matching, they need to be aligned. The wavelength, the higher you go, the fewer lines you get. So obviously you want to have a shorter wavelength so you can have more lines for your sunburst. And also you need to make sure you're on square, because the lines will be straight this way. So I'm gonna go somewhere like this. Looks alright to me, and I'll click OK. And that looks alright to me. And now the next thing I'm gonna do, go to distort again, and I'll choose polar coordinates, and I'll click OK. And there's my sunburst. It looks very good to me. There's one thing I want to mention as well. If you have any weird lines at the top, because that's where it wraps around, like it's you get a thinner line or a very wide line, either green or yellow, then you need to play around with your wavelength. Because for example here, if I cut into the yellow line at the very right end and a little bit in the yellow line on the left hand side, then this yellow line here on the right hand side, it will show as a very thin line at the top when I do my sunburst. And I'm going to demonstrate right now. And I'm going to go to polar coordinate, and I'll click OK. And as you can see, the line at the top is very thin compared to the rest of them, and that's because I had it very thin on the right hand side. So you need to make sure you don't have any halves, you only have solids. And if you don't get it right, like I said, you need to play with your wavelength until you get the right joint at the top. And here I'll do 168, and I think that's alright, because the yellow line at the very end on the right hand side, it looks the same thickness as the one next to it. And on the left hand side, the gap, the green line, looks just as thick as any other ones on the screen. So I think that should just be perfect. Now I'm gonna go to filter and distort again, and then polar coordinate, and click OK. So that looks perfect to me. That looks perfect to me. As you can see, it looks very good. And that's it. That's how you do it, guys. Again, if you want to play around with your colors, you just need to go to your background and foreground colors, and you choose whatever colors you want, and it's just as simple as that.
So thanks for watching again. I do hope you found this video useful. Please don't forget to like and perhaps even share. It helps the channel. And if you want to watch more videos like this, definitely subscribe, because I'm coming up with videos, tutorials and reviews all the time. I did have a gap from my last video to this one, and that's because I had to move house. But from now on, I'm gonna have them more frequent. So definitely subscribe if you're interested in these kind of videos, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care and stay safe.